today I'm just going to jump right in to kind of set this off. So, in our power session today, we had an amazing guest. His name is Peter Chabris, the number one real estate team in Cincinnati, Ohio. And we had a chance to talk to Peter about what we call our four planets of lead generation, right? Our four planets of lead generation. And in going through these four planets, we do what we call an audit, right? In any business owner that when you own a business, one of the biggest things that we have to do is we have to constantly audit. We have to see where we're at, be very honest with ourselves on what needs to be improved or what we need to work on. And then we've got to try to attack that so we can improve our overall system, right? And that's what we try to consistently do is just improve systems. And when we look at that word system, I find a lot of the times that as entrepreneurs, as real estate agents, we struggle with building systems. A lot of us are very good at working hard, right? And we work and we work and we work and we kind of go through this tizzy, and it becomes very challenging at times because we do the work, but we haven't gone back and fixed the system. So a lot of the times we're doing so much more than we actually need to be doing because we're all over the place. So when we talked today, we're talking about the four planets of lead generation and how critical they are to your success, to your business, and if you're strong in one and weak in another, the effects that can have on you. So I want to make sure as we dive deep into this that you're clear on what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then we're going to talk about some simple suggestions. And of course, as we get questions or anything like that, we'll answer those live here as well. But we're going to talk about some simple strategies to develop these four planets. So let's take a look here at the four planets of lead generation, right? When we're looking at this, in the middle of any system, right? When we look at that, we are trying to make sure that we can grade ourselves with simple visuals to know if we're getting better, worse, or just staying the same. So when we talk about prospecting as a system, and it is a system, right? When we look at our lead generation system, what I want to do is take a second to kind of talk about what our guest shared with us, Peter Chabris, today, and talk about when we're creating a prospecting planet, everybody's different. Some people are going to enjoy door knocking. Some people are going to enjoy open houses. And I want to pause for a minute and talk about that. Now, when we had Peter on, he was talking to us. One of the questions I asked him is, when you were first getting started in real estate, how did you have success? And what he shared with us was a very important piece was he had to get really in tuned with the why he was doing it so that it would drive the reason he was doing it. And what he had shared with us is his why was he had married and is married, I believe, to an amazing woman. And, when he married her, the friends they were around, the group of people he was around, he moved to a new area that he didn't really know anybody except for his mom. And he's a real estate agent. And he's going to dinner parties with doctors and lawyers and people that are having all this success. And he said something that really drove home with me where he goes, I just kind of got embarrassed of being average, right? Of being an average real estate agent, especially as I started talking to, and I want to say people that were in a professional world that probably had to go to school for X amount of years, that were doing all of these things to have massive success. And he's looking at it and he's saying to himself, okay, great. right? We've got all of these people here that I'm around now, and I got sick of just not feeling like I was proud that I was in sales, that I was a real estate professional, and they're making more money than me. And that really hit home for me. I think when we're looking at this and we're trying to decide or we're trying to understand what is the motivating factor of why we do things, when we start talking about our 4 planets of lead gen and we start talking about why we're doing things, if you don't have that dialed in, I can sit here and, as I've said many of times before, teach every strategy, technique, everything. But if you've already decided in your mind that you're okay with a $50,000 a year life, a $70,000 a year life, a $100,000 a year life, and you haven't dug deep enough into finding that fire, that either pain inside yourself or the urge that you need to go and crush these things, all this isn't going to matter. So I wanted to make sure that we're clear on this is going, you've got to figure out why you're really wanting to do this. And then we'll build systems to make sure that they deliver on it. Now, going back to, again, our 4 planets, everybody's going to be different. Some people are going to dominate prospecting. Some people are going to dominate direct mail. Some people are more comfortable with these different systems. With me coaching and interviewing and teaching the top agents across the country for 20 plus years now, what I have found is those that really have the most success and the enjoyment in the business, they've looked at 2 things. They do things at a high level that aren't extremely enjoyable. The pain, right? What we might think is pain, they get used to, right? So whether that's door knocking, making calls to people that you might not know and getting hung up on, they've committed to going. The money a lot of time lives in the uncomfortableness that I have to experience. So, hey, John. Hey, Judy. Thanks for joining us. So when we're looking at that, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comment box. I'll do my best to help. But when we're looking at this, they've become comfortable with the resistance or the pain that is necessary to break out of this $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 level of income. So let's strip this down into simplicity. So if we're looking at any of these planets you want to choose, all of them are going to involve some level of discomfort or AKA work to really develop and produce at a high level, right? So Desiree, what the percentage represents, and it's a great question. Thanks for joining us. The percentage is you auditing yourself, giving yourself a score on 0 to 100, 100 meaning your system is mastered in this. So if we were giving yourself a score on prospecting, and here's how I want you to define this. You are producing leads consistently, listings and buyers from your outbound prospecting efforts, and it's systematized. It's not a shotgun approach. It's not, sometimes I make calls when I need business. Sometimes I do this. You have a consistent role play system. You are, if you need, or not need, when you are on your calendar and your schedule, you know that from this time to this time, on these days, you lead gen, and whatever that means to you, whether that's door knocking, open houses, phone calls. Prospecting also means, it doesn't mean it has to be cold. Prospecting means that you're calling your center of influence, your sphere, your ambassadors, and you're engaging with them and either helping them buy additional real estate by way of investment properties. You're engaging them to get referrals, to receive referrals from you. You're engaging them to meet new people. So it's anything that you're utilizing your outbound effort to produce real estate business. So if you had to score your system of doing that, what would you score yourself? And then we're doing the same for the other 3 categories, okay? When you have all 4 scores, you're going to add them up, divide them by 4, and that's the number that's going to go under the system box, and that's going, or system circle. And now you kind of have a real estate report card, scorecard, if you will, of where you're at. And as we talked about with Peter today, when he scored himself, he gave himself a 10% in networking. He identified that that was something that they don't do at the highest level. And either he'll look at that and go, I'm going to improve that, or I'm just not going to do that, and I'm going to make sure the other 3 are 90, 95% maybe. So Judy says, my outbound system could be better. The others are all great. That's awesome, Judy. That's excellent, right? Right? So that's, when you're creating this, what we want to look at, though, is, and here's one of the things that, you know, Gary Keller, the chairman of the board for Keller Williams, told me. He said, Brendan, here's how I want you to test your systems. If you were to go open up a real estate business in China, would your systems work there? Are they documented? Could somebody immediately start using them? And could you rebuild your real estate business in China if you went there today? Or any foreign country. It doesn't have to be China necessarily. I'm just was using it as the example. And I was like, no, not even close. So many of the things I was doing at the time involved a lot of my energy, a lot of my charisma, a lot of my work ethic, and they weren't systematic so that they were documented, they were recorded, and I could scale it and have someone else do it at some point. Now, when Peter was on, he made a comment about him being a 7th level real estate agent, right? And when you look at this, when he's talking levels, is just looking at a model system from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And the first level, level 1, is you're an individual agent by yourself, right? It's just you. Level 2, you get some more leverage. Level 3, you get more leverage. And you can reference this in the MREA. You can Google it and just say 7th level MREA, and you'll get all these Google images that'll show you what the levels are. The 7th level is when someone is running your business, your real estate business, and you're not involved. Meaning that, and to say not involved, I'm sure he does check-ins with his CEO and people that are running it, but he's spending, when you first start, you're spending 100% of your time, 100% of your effort. When you build a business, at some point, you're spending 5% of your time on that business because you've built the systems and models and you've given people opportunities to leverage those systems and models so that the model continues to work and they continue to move forward and have great success, and you continue to receive income from that business you built. And that's one of the struggles I see in our business is I watch people just working to work and work and work and work. They're not following a strategic model that is going to build leverage around them, right? So, and Judy says, yes, my systems are impeccable thanks to a top-notch admin. That's fantastic, right? That's exactly what we're looking at. So the next thing Judy's looking at is, can I sell the same amount of houses this year as I did last year if I wasn't doing it myself? Maybe that's the next challenge, right? When I help people build their businesses, it's obviously looking at these next leverage systems, but everything needs to be documented and systematized, right? That's the challenge. So here's a book that I'll share with you that'll help, right? The book Traction, it's written by Gino Wickman. it really helps look at a style and simple process of how to run a bigger business and run a bigger model, so that either some of you are going to be part of a company and it's awesome and maybe working your way up to run that company one day. Some of you are looking at it going, okay, I'm going to try to do this myself. Some of you have partners. Some of you are in all kind of different levels of this. I want to be very clear. There's no right or wrong answer. The end goal isn't that every single person has to have a 50-person real estate team. It all comes down to what problems do you want to have and what do you enjoy. As I've always said, my wife, if she had to run a actual real estate team, she would hate it. It's not what her passion is. She doesn't enjoy that world as much as she does working with buyers and sellers, helping them have success. And then she struggles with the same thing. Is it's like she needs immediate leverage because she has lock boxes and things happening and CMAs that need to be created and all of these things that are moving so that she can, yeah, it's super difficult, Desiree. We were all there. I started off solo, right? I mean, we all usually started off at some point like that. The systems that we employ earlier in our business then free us up to have the opportunity to get more money to provide more leverage. So John says, I'm working on formally systemizing my business. We are a family team and looking to grow and expand. We need to have those systems in place now. Yeah. And you know what, Dave, when we looked at our team, Elite Home Partners, right? We've got about 150 agents on the team and all of these different pieces. We looked at it and we estimated we have 58 processes that run our entire business. And so that might sound overwhelming, right? When you think about 58 processes. And what I mean by a process is the one process would be how we take a buyer from under contract to close, a listing from listing taken to active, a lead from lead received to lead under contract, a ambassador from your sphere, from that process of the 46 touches, our client appreciation event process, you see where I'm going with this? So that you want to do an interesting exercise, you're trying to break down all of these and going, okay, are they documented? When I use the word process, and when I lean over, I have a whole wall with it's like the war room in here, right? And from the traction model, right, you have process. It's documented and followed by all. And a lot of our processes, they're getting there. I wouldn't say they were the best documented processes. They've gotten a lot better over time, right? And then followed by all. Are they simple enough so that everyone can follow them, so that everyone is vibing and the machine is working, right? So Desiree says, do you run all those systems consistently? Yes, you do, but it didn't happen all at once, right? Like if you're going off of the model, the biggest model that I looked at was the 7th level model, and trying to figure out, okay, first, yeah, consistently every day. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have to, for the size and volume of the business that we are doing, right? But here's the thought process when you're looking at this is, you're going to start with 2 to 3 systems. And that diagram that I just showed you, model, these are 4 processes that you should probably master and document. Now, when you're looking at prospecting, if you're going, okay, I have a door knocking system, or I have a calling expired system, or I have a open house 7th level open house system. Don't try to attack all of them. Go, okay, maybe you hate open houses, but you don't mind making phone calls. Maybe you hate making phone calls, but you like making open houses and you like meeting people in person. You still know, though, whatever system you're building, think about that upper right one for prospecting. You got to produce X amount of conversations from it about buying or selling every week. See, what happens is sometimes we build processes that don't support the numbers that we need to have for our conversion levels to be what they need for us to do a deal, right? So if you can only meet 9 people a week at an open house and you're doing 1 open house a week, but you know that you have to have 50 conversations, 60, 70, 80 conversations a week to make $250,000 a year, well, you can master your open house one. So you're going to go, good. On average, I'm getting 10 conversations from there, but I'm going to have to build another system or 2 to get the rest of the other 30, 40 conversations a week to happen, right? Now, I'm not always saying you have to have 50 conversations. I've said this plenty of times before. There are people that in our organization that for every 10 conversations, they close a home. There's people that take 400 to close a home. It depends on your skill level, your database, a lot of other pieces. But in the beginning, especially in the beginning, it's a contact sport, right? Yeah, I'm glad, Desiree. That's right. Yeah, it just tries to make it less overwhelming. So when we look at this, right, that's what we're talking about is creating systems. So when we look at networking, and this is the one that I see, in real estate, most of us, you remember, I do animals for our personality styles instead of the DISC or the other assessments, right? I always look at it and we go, we got tigers, dolphins, and turtles. The real estate industry as a whole, as a personality style, is a lot of dolphins. Usually we get into real estate because someone told us, man, you really talk a lot and enjoy talking to people and you're very outgoing. You should be in sales, right? Usually if you're a dolphin, they're not like, you know what you should be? You're really outgoing and all this. Why don't you go be an engineer or a scientist or whatever? I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying in generalities, right? So when we're looking at this, right, we know that we're in a business with a lot of dolphin type personalities that love to network, that love to go and meet people, and they thrive in being around people, and it fills their bucket. The challenge with networking is the same thing. You have to reverse engineer it so that the networking systems you have is producing enough conversations about buying and selling real estate so that your goals become a reality. Because I know a lot of agents that network hard and don't make a lot of money. They're at a broker open every other day. They're at Top Golf. They're at this. They're at lender parties. And I'm going, you're networking with all of these agents. What's your networking plan to get business? Like, where are you getting your clients from? So just showing up and going to stuff isn't always going to produce real estate business, because after you capture people from these networking events, the next thing that you have to do is we have to put them into a nurture system so that eventually you build a relationship that leads to real estate sales, real estate referrals, and so on and so forth. So that's the hard part, is if you're a super dolphin, you're either going to need to hire somebody at some point when you have the money to put in place to manage your database. So all you do is get in front of people and do that. And a lot of times that's the hardest part, is you can't do step 2 until you have enough money to do step 2, which means you're going to have to do step 2, meaning the database part and the nurturing part, until that door opens. You know what I mean? So the question is, if any of this doesn't work, do you drop it? That's a great question, right? So if it doesn't work, so let's say that you start let's go to direct mail, and you go, you know what? I'm going to mail 300 golden letters a month, every month for the next 6 months, right? I'll say a couple of things because I've tested a lot of things over time. Almost anything you're going to do is going to require a 6-month beta test to see if it works. Now, I try to cut off as much stupidity as possible to see what other people are doing that have had success and what their systems are, right? And we've got a couple of tools, right? Like we have the Millionaire Agent Playbook, right? I'm not trying to sell this or anything, but I try to learn from the successes of other top agents and go, okay, you did this really well. You did it, buyer seminar, investor seminar, the way that they do open houses, the way that they do maybe do a client appreciation event, the way they do their golden letters, right? We had Will Van Wickler on our program, and he's amazing. I try to cut out the guesswork and go, how did they do it? And can I adapt that? And does that vibe with me? And do I think I could be consistent at doing it? So I'm not trying to go and test new ideas basically that I've had. In real estate, there's not that many new ideas left. And sometimes when I have agents doing new ideas, they're like, you know what? I'm going to do all of my business from my car club, right? Let's just say I'm in a car club and I go to auto shows and do all that. Can you build a real estate business around it? Absolutely. That's a networking event in a lot of ways. You're still going to have to build a system and a model to make sure that you're extracting the people that you meet from there. Because if you're at the auto events and all you're doing is talking about cool cars and real estate's not getting brought up in these conversations, I know people that do bridal shows. I know people that do home and garden shows, right? Why do they do bridal shows and home and garden shows? Or bridal, what I think it's called bridal shows. I don't know. I obviously don't go to a lot of them. Because usually if you're getting married, you're going to what? Probably be combining households and maybe buying a house. Makes sense to me. Home and garden shows. People are at home and gardens. You're talking about homes. You have a booth set up there. Maybe they want a bigger backyard so they can have a garden, blah, 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 blah. So trying to think through this in a lot of times of going, make your life easier and go to the source of where you're going to be in the best position to get business, right? And just make sure that you're giving yourself the best chance early on, and then it'll get easier, right? You heard Peter Chabris say today that most of the agents that work with him have 150 to 300. In his word, they call them sphere. We call them ambassadors. He gave the exact definition of what we think an ambassador is, but they just call it a different name. And that's fine. You can call it whatever name you want. They know what it means to them. Someone that would buy or sell real estate with them, that would trust them to work with them, that they have on their touch system and they're receiving touches from. 150 to 300, remember, at 6 per, right? For every 6 you're going to close a deal if they're fully nurtured and processed. Well, then I'm thinking through it and going, okay, remember, you see these 4 circles on here, right? These 4 planets. I need each one of these planets, or I need these planets to produce 2, 3, 4 ambassador opportunities for me to build relationships every week. Because, ladies and gentlemen, all we're trying to do is first get to 50 real ambassadors. That's the first goal. And I see people just struggle with this all the time. Then after 50, we're trying to get to 100, and then 150. And remember, you're going to have attrition. Not everybody's going to stay in your database and love you. You're going to have 20 to 30% attrition of ambassadors a year. They're going to get a real estate license. They're going to move to Spain. They're going to, I hate to say this, not be alive anymore, right? There's things that are going to happen in their lives. So some people go, well, I've got 50, or 100, I'm going to focus on that. Every 100, you're probably going to lose 20. So you're constantly trying to have these lead generation planets refilling, and then you got to refill and try to get more, and then build leverage around you so that you can work smarter, not harder, right? That's all we're trying to do here is create a higher quality of life so that you never have to make a cold call. You never have to do an open house unless you want to. You never have to do any of these things. But in the beginning, we've got to create these systems to capture enough relationships so that we can build it to a size that's going to make us the money we want to have. So thank you for all the questions. Thank you for everyone for joining us on here. Taylor, Desiree, everyone that was on here with us today. But think about this, right? Remember, print this out, tape it to your wall. know where you're at with your percentages, and then just simply try to work on it a little bit after you've hit your conversation goal for the week and after you've hit your ambassador goal for the week. Nail those two, then go work on your planets. Don't work on your planets until you've talked to the people you need to talk to and you've built the relationships you need to build. If you're telling me it's hard to go build 2 relationships a week out there, then you're going to have a hard time in this business. You're either not thinking it through well enough or you're just letting it overwhelm you. Don't let it overwhelm you. 50 conversations a week, 2 ambassadors a week, your whole life and world will be on a different level if you process them all correctly inside your database. All right, everyone, thank you for joining me for Pulse Overtime. This was an absolute blast and a treat. If there's anything we can do to help, or if there's anyone out there you think we can help, please let them know about the Pulse Nation. Subscribe, register, check out our YouTube channel, all that fun stuff. And everyone, have an amazing, powerful week. Thank you.